Cal loves toys. And the only way that I can afford to buy the toys, because Mother gets kind of strict with me sometimes, is to have the money in the kitty in the bank that's my playpen. And I'm going to tell you about a couple of the toys, because I love to experiment with things, and I'll be honest, I'm a toy addict. In computers and in sound equipment and in video equipment in particular. A lot of, some of what I charge is going to depend upon what I install in the way of sound equipment. I've over the years accumulated all kinds of various pieces of gear. You figure 40-some years in doing this, you tend to not sell the stuff you probably ought to sell. But I've also found some areas to where I can't do things with the equipment that I've got. I got interested here a number of months back in going to dances and trying to hear. I'm hard of hearing. I'm losing my hearing, and it's in the range that really hearing aids aren't going to do a lot of good. And I got troubled by the fact that I couldn't hear the bass. I couldn't hear a beat to dance to. I could hear the caller, but the beat was just gone. And I realized part of it's me. When I'm home, I've got one of the Williams sound sets that I used to listen to TV as kids back. And I know a part of it's me, but I was troubled by the fact that I couldn't hear the bass. I can always hear it in the movie. I could hear it in the car sitting next to me in traffic. I could hear it at home fine, but I couldn't hear it at the dance. My conclusion is, in spite of the fact I'm hard of hearing, that they're not playing the bass. Now, is the bass not there? In many cases on square dance records, it's not there. In many cases, it is. And either the speakers we're using or the sound systems we are using do not have the bass up far enough that it penetrates the floor. So I conducted an experiment just for the fun of it. I pulled the subwoofer. The woofer is, do you know what a subwoofer is?
I don't even know what a woofer is.
Okay, it's a unit that hooks into your hi-fi system, and your hi-fi system has to be set up for it, that specifically handles the bass and has a separate amplification of it. And when you go in and hear these wonderful things that go on within the hi-fi shops or in the movies, probably the entire bass part of it is in one great big huge box that sits behind the movie screen. And all of the little speakers that go down the sides only handle middle and upper range. Because bass is non-directional. Bass can come playing from any place in the room, and you can't tell where it's coming from. And so when they set up the big stereo systems, they give you middle and upper range directionally. They give you the bass from one point. So I've got a pretty easy, it's a cheap subwoofer. Believe me, it's a cheap subwoofer. And I took it down, and I took it into a one-night stand that I was doing downtown that I've done for this same group. They do it about 4 times a year. And I turned it on for some pieces of music, and I turned it off for others. There was an amazing visual response that I could see from the mind out of those people. When you would turn the bass up, you would see the back straighten, and you would see the people start going like this, where before they might be wandering around like this. There was an amazing visual difference. So since Cal loves toys, I went down and I bought me a powered speaker. The one I have is called a Mackie. It's an SMR or SRM 450. It weighs 56 pounds. It's got a 15-inch woofer in it and 300 watts of amplifier inside the speaker, as well as a secondary speaker across the top. Did Bob's dance for his club down there. It's 3 squares in a relatively small room, which really does not allow that speaker to show off. Okay, out of 3 squares, I think it's 3 or 4 squares, I can't remember, Bob. I think it was 3 squares, and we're down to that dance. I had 3 couples come up and say, "Boy, Cal, great dance. I really love the music." Now, you guys know we don't get much feedback from the people on the floor. When we get 3 couples out of 3 squares, I'm impressed. We really love the music. And I didn't say a thing. All I did was set the speaker up there and play it. The nice thing about that speaker is I can take it into a gymnasium, set it up on top of the speaker, and that bass will drive the entire length of the floor without being distorted. Bass notes don't interfere with voice. It's the middle and upper range that interfere with voice. Second thing I figured out real quickly is I don't need to buy more than one. More than one will cover me 99% of the time. I occasionally get the gems, or I'll have less than 99% of the time. Get the gems. I can go to the audio-visual place in Denver and rent these big powered speakers. I can daisy chain as many of them as I want to and not have to buy any more. Is it worth it? Since Cal's likes toys, I justify it. The thing is that when you do the father-daughter stuff, they hear bass. They expect bass. They judge the quality of the music on the bass. I mean, we have a whole generation that's used to surround sound.
They can't hear anything else anymore.
They can't hear anything else anymore, some of them. You're right, exactly. And so if we don't provide that bass as being, we are judged based upon that. Okay, this also means that I filter through the tunes that I have, and I pick out the ones with bass. And I allow that bass to come on through and allow that bass to penetrate. It's part of the presentation. Okay, something else. You've been watching these, and I don't know how many of you use mini discs, but there has been an obvious change. I changed to mini discs 4 or 5 years ago. And I now don't pack anything for parts excepting mini discs. There's a reason. I don't even take I've got a 201. I don't even take it. Because if you take 45 RPM records and you're dealing with young people that people come up and they say, what is that? And they've got a little pinch between their brows. You take these and they'll come up and they'll say, what is that? Right. What is that? And you explain it to them and they go away impressed. These are our future customers. Fathers come up, the big Mackie speaker, the fathers come up and say, wow, boy, that really is something. Yeah, and it's image. You know, it's image of how we appear to the public, and I think this is important. Because we have a problem right now with the fact that square dancing is Hicksville to an awful lot of people. And so if we don't have equipment that's Hicksville, that helps. If we use a medium that most of them are unfamiliar with but impressed with, that helps. Right? And we've got another leg up on this business of having a disadvantage. And sure, it costs money. There's no question about it costs money, but if you charge enough, then you can recoup that amount of money. They form a mental image as soon as they see it of who you are, in my opinion. As soon as they see it to who you are. Now, you and I both know that everything I've got on CDs or on mini discs came off 45 RPM records and LPs. Well, there's 15 off CDs I bought. Most of them came off that stuff. Yeah.
The one thing that I always try to do when I'm doing these church things is find out what kind of sound equipment they're already using. Number one, they're going to have a devotional prior to my getting there. And I don't know if you've been involved in the new music that the kids are singing progressive Christian music, but it's extremely loud. And I walk in and they have speakers, and I am not kidding you, they have a bobtail truck for the speakers. The bottom speakers are standing this tall and they're stacked. And I find a way to go into their system off that Hilton. And I use DP4s. And for those of you that hadn't been calling a long time, they were Newcomb speakers. They weighed 78 pounds apiece. And they took a back end of a car and put it down on the ground. And you had to lift those things up in the air. I still use those DP4s because of the big 12-inch speakers in it.
Right.
But I plug into their system.
A couple things. If you go to powered speakers, you do not need to have an amplifier in your system. In other words, you can go to a little simple mixer. and then pipe it into the powered speaker, and you can daisy chain those things as far as you want to daisy chain, because the electricity that goes to the speaker is separate, and the volume is set on the speaker is separate. You set your whole pattern that you want to have, and then you control it off the preamp mixer. And the preamp mixer, I carry sometimes a little preamp mixer called a folio notepad. And it's about 10 inches by 10 inches, and it's got enough buttons, and it also keeps the kids going, wow, I wish I had one of those. They're also good. I work with a number of DJs in Denver, and I've gotten to the place where I just hand them the mini disc player and the mic and say, hook these up. Okay, I use a wireless mic. A couple other speakers of people have spoken to this. Highly recommend it to you, because a wireless mic, this is an umbilical cord that goes between here and here. And I think it's nice not to have that umbilical cord. I want to be all over the floor. There's a lot of times, particularly with adults, that I can solve a problem by going to a square and giving individual directions, or by a general guiding of the hand. That would take me 3 to 4 times to get across the same amount of information on the mic if I were successful at all. A lot of times, this is the headset. Yeah, here's the headset and belt pack that I use. You're welcome to come up and look at it. It fits a little bit different. This goes around the back of your head instead of over the top of your head.
Well, I'd like that.
Huh?
I'd like that.
Yeah, and so for those of you who worry about hairdos, when you get to be my age, at least I've got hair to worry about.
I got hair.
Cal, he's older than you are.
Yeah.
That's why.
Well, if I'm like my grandmother, I'll still have a reasonable amount when I die. So.
So do I. I got a
But
brown
you know,
hair.
particularly for the ladies who's, you know, you want to preserve that hairdo, this popping around the back of your head is a real asset. If you buy gear in this regard, this has 2 complete receivers in it. That's why the 2 antennas in there. It's big because in order to make these 2 antennas effective, you have to get them a minimum of 1 foot apart. If you're buying units like this that have 2 receivers in here, and these don't get 1 foot apart, you're not buying a thing for your money. I have never had this one fail. I've had it 7 years, Judy. I've had this one 7 years. I've only been one place where I could not use it. We have an area that's high science and super secret in Denver called Buckley Air Force Base, and they have a bunch of huge golf balls out there with radar antenna inside it. When I go out to the rec center to do a show, about every 5 minutes, this thing goes absolutely bananas.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the only place in town I have not been able to use it. I will occasionally get places where I have to shut off the amplifier or the receiver every time I shut off the mic. Just because there is a signal that's still writing in occasionally. As long as the mic is on, I have no trouble. It's when I turn the power off to the mic. So you know, these are just a couple things that you need to know about wireless mics. As I say, I've got both a hand mic and a head mic, so I can switch back and forth. They're both on the same channel, so one's got to be off before the other one can go on.